days, and I was in the back of her bus, and she's writing music, and we're singing, and she's saying, no, sing it this way, and I'd try it that way. She said, no, let's try it.
To the world, she was the raven-haired beauty with a voice like velvet and a string of hits that defined an era. Crystal Gayle was a country music sensation, an icon of glamour whose floor-length hair was as famous as her chart-topping songs. Her image was one of crystalline perfection, a cool, sophisticated counterpoint to her sister Loretta Lynn's raw, homespun honesty. From the outside, her life looked like a fairy tale of platinum albums and universal adoration, but behind that dazzling image was a story of quiet struggle the tabloids never told. It's a story that begins not on a stage, but with a devastating loss that would shape the woman who had to navigate the crushing pressures of fame while carrying a secret sorrow. This isn't the story of the celebrity you think you know. This is the story of Brenda Gayle Webb, the youngest of 8, whose journey was forged in hardship long before it was ever touched by fame. This is the secret tragedy, and the quiet resilience, of Crystal Gayle. Before Crystal Gayle became a household name, she was Brenda Gayle Webb, born January 9, 1951, in Paintsville, Kentucky. She was the baby of the family, the last of 8 children. And right from the start, her path was a little different. Unlike her famous older sister, Loretta Lynn, and her other siblings born in the family cabin in Butcher Holler, Brenda was the only one born in a hospital. By the time Brenda was a toddler, the world her older siblings knew, the one immortalized in Loretta's song, Coal Miner's Daughter, was already starting to change. Life in Appalachia was dictated by the rhythms of the coal mines that employed men like her father, Ted Webb. He spent his days in the dark to provide for his sprawling family. But the mines that gave them a living also took a piece of him. While family lore often mentions black lung disease, which he was battling, his death was ultimately caused by a stroke. Seeking better work and medical care for Ted, the family left the Kentucky hills for Wabash, Indiana, when Brenda was just 4. It was a world away from the holler. Her mother, Clary, took a job as a nurse's aide to help make ends meet. But the move couldn't outrun the illness stalking their family. In 1959, when Brenda was only 8 years old, her father died. The loss was a seismic event that shattered their world. For a young girl, losing her father was a profound and formative tragedy. She later recalled that he was a very shy and quiet man, a trait she recognized in herself. His death instilled a quiet fragility in her that would remain even as she built a career that demanded public confidence. Music, always a constant in the Webb household, became her comfort. Her mother said she could sing before she could walk. In the wake of her father's death, that talent became her refuge. She sang with her brother's country bands on weekends and soaked up every musical style she could find, from the folk songs she taught herself on guitar to the pop and rock she heard on the radio. This eclectic musical education, born from a childhood marked by loss, was building the foundation for the unique voice that would one day captivate the world, a voice that carried the quiet echo of a secret sorrow. As Brenda Gayle Webb blossomed into a young woman with a remarkable voice, she couldn't escape one defining fact: she was Loretta Lynn's little sister. By the mid-1960s, Loretta was a country music titan, and for Brenda, this was both a blessing and a heavy burden. The connection to her famous sister definitely opened doors. During her summer breaks from high school, Brenda toured with Loretta's band, getting a first-hand education in the life of a professional musician. At just 16, she made her debut on the hallowed stage of the Grand Ole Opry at the Ryman Auditorium. Loretta had fallen ill, and her husband, Mooney, convinced the Opry to let her little sister take her place. A nervous Brenda, wearing a shiny dress her mother had made, stepped into the spotlight and sang a cover of Ribbon of Darkness. It was also Loretta who gave her a new name. When Brenda signed with Decca Records, her sister's label, they already had a star named Brenda Lee. To avoid confusion, Loretta saw a sign for Crystal Hamburgers and suggested Crystal. Brenda agreed, and Crystal Gayle was born. Loretta even wrote her debut single, I've Cried, the Blue Right Out of My Eyes, which became a modest hit in 1970. But after that, things stalled. The very family connection that opened the door now threatened to trap her. Decca executives wanted a second Loretta Lynn and pushed her to record in the same traditional country style. Her early records were, as one critic put it, Little Loretta records, and the singles failed to make an impact. She was languishing, creatively frustrated, and stuck in the immense shadow cast by her sister. This was the second great struggle of her young life, the fight for her own identity. The industry was only interested because of who her sister was, yet it wouldn't let her be her own person. The turning point came from Loretta herself. In a moment of incredible sisterly wisdom, she gave Crystal the most important advice of her career: quit singing my songs. We have one Loretta Lynn, we don't need another. She encouraged Crystal to find her own voice, even if it meant moving toward a more pop-friendly style. That advice was the permission Crystal needed. In 1974, she left Decca Records, signed with United Artists, and teamed up with producer Alan Reynolds, known for a smoother, more contemporary sound. It was here that she finally began to cultivate her own style, a sophisticated, jazz-inflected sound that was worlds away from her sister's honky-tonk. This quiet act of rebellion wasn't a rejection of her family, but a necessary declaration of her own artistic independence. The move to United Artists Records was the real start of Crystal Gayle's ascent. With producer Alan Reynolds, she was finally free to blend her country roots with the pop, folk, and jazz sounds she loved. The results were almost immediate. Her 1975 single, Wrong Road Again, broke into the top 10, followed by her first #1 hits, I'll Get Over You, and You Never Miss a Real Good Thing, Till He Says Goodbye. She was no longer just Loretta Lynn's sister, she was a rising star. Then came the song that changed everything. In 1977, songwriter Richard Lee had penned a jazz-tinged ballad he thought might be good for a powerhouse like Shirley Bassey. When Alan Reynolds heard the demo, he knew it was special and told Lee, "You're not sending that song anywhere." The song was, of course, Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue. Crystal knew it was a career-defining song the moment she heard it. In the studio, in a moment of pure musical magic, she recorded the lead vocal in a single, perfect take. That first take was the one the world would hear. The song was a phenomenon. It hit #1 on the country charts and crossed over to the pop charts, climbing to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100. It became an international smash, turning Crystal Gayle into a global superstar. The album, We Must Believe in Magic, became the first by a female country artist to be certified platinum, and in 1978, she won a Grammy for her performance, but this incredible success came with its own pressures. The crossover appeal that made her a star also brought a new kind of isolation. Some country purists were skeptical of her smooth, pop-infused sound. At the same time, the demands of pop superstardom were relentless. The song that opened so many doors also built a cage of expectations. She was suddenly an international celebrity and fashion icon, and the focus was often as much on her image, especially her floor-length hair, as it was on her music. Having fought so hard for her own musical identity, she now had to deal with a public image that threatened to overshadow her artistry all over again. This was the classic price of fame. She was constantly on the road, navigating a grueling schedule of TV appearances, photo shoots, and sold-out concerts. The joy of a #1 record was met with the exhaustion of global touring. She had found her own voice, only to discover the world now wanted to define her by a single song and a single look. The 1980s saw Crystal Gayle continue her reign with a string of hits, including Talking in Your Sleep, Half the Way, and the massive duet with Eddie Rabbitt, You and I. To her fans, her life seemed perfect. But behind the curtain, the quiet struggles continued, shifting from the pressures of stardom to the profound and personal tragedies of life and loss. One of the most enduring sorrows Crystal has carried is the loss of her siblings. Growing up as the youngest of 8, her family was her bedrock. But the most public and painful loss came on October 4, 2022, when her sister, mentor, and guiding star, Loretta Lynn, passed away at the age of 90. Despite industry chatter about a rivalry, Crystal and Loretta shared a deep and unbreakable bond. When Loretta died, Crystal's public statement was a simple, heartbreaking testament to their relationship. The world lost a legend. We lost a sister. Love you, Loretta. Losing Loretta was more than losing a sibling, it was losing a foundational piece of her own story, the woman who had named her, guided her, and ultimately set her free. It was a profound, personal tragedy played out on a public stage. Professionally, the changing tides of the music industry also presented new challenges. As the slick, pop-influenced country she had pioneered gave way to the new traditionalist movement of the late 1980s and the Garth Brooks boom of the 1990s, her presence on the charts began to fade. This is a natural cycle for most artists, but it was a difficult transition. The struggle was no longer to get to the top, but to navigate a career after the peak. And through it all, there was the weight of her image. Her floor-length hair, which started as a youthful style, had become an inescapable part of her public persona. The woman who fought to be known for her unique voice was, for many, simply, the singer with the long hair. This subtle, ongoing struggle, to be seen as a whole artist rather than just a beautiful image, was a quiet undercurrent to her later career. To focus only on the hardships would be to miss the most essential part of Crystal Gayle's story, her profound resilience. Her journey is defined not by the shadows, but by the quiet, dignified strength with which she has always walked toward the light. At the core of her resilience is her family. Her marriage to her high school sweetheart, Bill Gatsamos, since 1971 has been a steadying force in her life. They married before her career took off, and he has been by her side ever since, serving as both her husband and the president of their business, Gayle Enterprises. Together, they raised 2 children, and she has spoken with immense joy about being a grandmother. This stable home life has been her sanctuary, the anchor that kept her grounded. Her Christian faith has also been a central pillar of her strength. This has manifested in a deep commitment to philanthropy, particularly for causes like cancer research, a poignant tribute to the father she lost so young, and organizations that help children. She has lent her voice to multiple Grammy-winning children's albums and even released her own collection of lullabies, showing a tender side of her artistry. Her legacy in music is undeniable, with millions of records sold and countless accolades, including her own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But perhaps her most significant honor came in January 2017, when she was officially inducted as a member of the Grand Ole Opry. In a beautiful full-circle moment, she was inducted by her sister, Loretta Lynn, on the same Ryman stage where she had made her nervous debut 50 years earlier. As Loretta welcomed her, she noted that in all their years, they had never had a fight, a testament to their enduring bond. Today, Crystal Gayle continues to tour and record. Her 2019 album, You Don't Know Me, Classic Country, co-produced by her son, Chris, was a passion project featuring songs that were significant to her in her youth. It's a reflection of a woman at peace with her journey, comfortable in her own skin, and still deeply in love with the music that has been the through line of her entire life. If you found this story of resilience and artistry compelling, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the lives of your favorite music legends. Let us know in the comments which Crystal Gayle's song means the most to you. The story of Crystal Gayle is far more complex than the polished image of a country pop superstar. It is a quiet epic of resilience. It's the story of a young girl who channeled the grief of losing her father into a passion for music. It's the story of an artist who respectfully refused to live in her legendary sister's shadow to forge a sound that was entirely her own. And it's the story of a woman who navigated the dizzying heights of fame and the quiet sorrow of personal loss with unwavering grace. Her life isn't just a cautionary tale about the price of fame, it's a lesson in the power of authenticity and the quiet strength it takes to define yourself in a world that constantly tries to do it for you. Beyond the famous hair and the timeless hits lies the enduring truth of Crystal Gayle, a gentle spirit, an unbreakable will, and a voice that, through it all, has never lost its power to soothe the heart.